Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough, and it's time for yet another Epic Media Battle! This episode is a request from a fan and a fellow reviewer, Austin Trench. This is him.
Good evening, YouTube. Austin Trench here, coming at you with a toy review.
Like Adam Sullivan, he's requested me to do multiple things on this show, and we're going to cover them. Starting off with his first request, an epic media battle covering the Watchmen comic versus the Watchmen movie. Created by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, Watchmen was a DC comic series that lasted from 1986 to 1987. The series was meant to be a dark, gritty satire of the comic book genre, taking place in an apocalyptic 1985, which was a world on the verge of nuclear war, and a world where all heroes are outlawed. And the main characters, the Watchmen, are a group of retired superheroes trying to get back into the superhero game, all to solve the murder of one of their fallen heroes. So yeah, in other words, it's Incredibles, except instead of Disney, it was made by DC. After the comics run, it received tons of praise from comic readers, was placed 91 on the Comics Journal of Top 100 Best Comics, a prequel comic, a video game, and of course the 2009 movie adaptation by Zack Snyder, also known as the guy who made 300 and ruined Superman. Now to be fair, Snyder was not the first to attempt to make a Watchmen movie. Fox tried to make a movie in 1986, and then Warner Brothers tried it in 1991 with Terry Gilliam to direct, but Gilliam said the movie was too complex even for him. And lo and behold, Snyder was finally the one that made the movie in 2007, saying he used the entire comic as a storyboard for the film, which some people deny, seeing how they say that it's not as good as the comic. Now, as far as I could find, there are three major differences between the comic and the movie, and we're going to be looking at them today, starting with round one, the characters. As for the Watchmen, we have the Night Owl, Silk Spectre, Ozymandias, the Comedian, and my personal favorites, Dr. Manhattan and Rorschach. Night Owl is kind of the Batman of the group in that he dresses up like an animal and only relies on a collection of weapons. Silk Spectre was actually chosen to become a superheroine after her mom retired as the previous Silk Spectre. Ozymandias was the world's smartest man until he decided to give up superheroing and became a famous businessman. The Comedian, Silk Spectre's biological father, is a government ally and is the character who gets killed to begin the plot. Dr. Manhattan is kind of the Hulk in a way. He started off as a scientist until he got hit with an instrict field subtractor, sorry if I'm reading that wrong, and he was brought back as a big blue god. And lastly we have Rorschach, a vigilante who wears a mask that's a moving Rorschach picture. So which has the better representation of the characters, the 12-issue comic series or the almost 3-hour movie? Honestly, the comic did a better job, and it's not just because the comic introduced the characters, it just portrayed them better. I mean, okay. Dr. Manhattan, Rorschach, and the Comedian I thought were great in the movie. Dr. Manhattan has a great backstory, which easily could have been its own short film. Even though we really didn't have to see his big blue ding-dong, guys. And I thought that Jackie Earle Haley and Jeffrey Dean Morgan I thought were pretty great in their respective roles. And to be fair, Patrick Wilson and Matthew Good did decent Night Owl and Ozymandias. But say it with me here, Malin Akerman was pretty weak as the Silk Spectre. She came off as bratty and whiny, even though in the comic she was very mature for a person who had severe parent issues. And even though the comic had its fair share of violence, these heroes are just very bloodthirsty. It seems they get off on it, and knowing the fact that Night Owl is actually impotent, I wouldn't be surprised. It all falls under the damn Zack Snyder effect, where he just loves to make characters super and badass, even though the original point of the comic was to show the humanity of the people behind the costumes. Again, like The Incredibles. So yeah, for me, the comic wins this round. But now for a minor change that a lot of people are still split on, the Black Freighter storyline. In the comic, there was an in-universe comic series called The Black Freighter, about pirates. We would often see this kid hanging out on the city street reading the comic, all the while these nutballs carrying signs with Babylon about the end of the world or some crap. So, why is this relevant? Well, once again, spoilers! As it turns out, Ozymandias was the killer at the end of the comic, and the Black Freighter was supposed to be symbolic, showing how Ozzy feels bad about what he did. Now, some people out there say that it sucks this part was cut from the movie, seeing how without it, we hardly feel that Ozzy actually feels bad for what he did. But personally, I don't mind this. I mean, I appreciate the symbolism they were trying to do here, and the social commentary about how people read entertainment comics to temporarily get away from the stress of everyday life. But really, if they were going to cut anything out, a side story about a person reading comics about pirates, I think we could have lived without. So yeah, for me, the movie wins this round. And now, for the last round, the ending. Which has the best ending? In the ending of the comic, a giant slimy squid is unleashed and it kills everybody. Okay, time to backpedal. In the comic, they establish that Ozzy tinkered with teleportation machines, and the machine is the thing that summons the squid. And the world officially has to put its differences aside and team up to defeat the alien menace. As for the movie's ending, well, I'm just gonna let the Atop the Fourth Wall theme play it for me.
They made Watchmen without the slimy squid.
Yeah, there's no slimy squid in the movie. Instead, you have Dr. Manhattan attacking the world on a global killing spree, which leads the world to band together and defeat him. And he flees to another galaxy, which that was in the comic. And it ends with Silk Spectre and Night Owl hooking up. Yeah, no surprise, I like the comic's ending better. I don't hate the movie's ending necessarily. I mean, it's very bittersweet in its own right, but the comic has a very happier ending. Ozzy comes clean about releasing the squid, Dr. Manhattan leaves peacefully, and even forgives Ozzy for his mistakes. I think the only similarities the movie and the comic have in terms of the ending are the world banding together, Rorschach's sacrifice, Silk Spectre and Night Owl hooking up together as regular people. I mean, sure, Dr. Manhattan leaves at the end, but it's all for some greater good bullcrap in the movie. So yeah, in my opinion, the comic wins the round as well as the battle. But with all that said, I don't hate the Watchmen movie, and actually I recommend you watch it at least once, then you can form your own opinion about it. I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough.